Okay, it's July 5th, 2019, over at our house in Alexandria, Virginia, our backyard. So it's Grammy, Joyce Gibson. Hi.
Hi.
So this is the first interview, so do you want to tell some story, like when you were a kid or something? Or,
Talk about my arm wrestling days.
Sure.
Kids like hearing the stories about me doing my arm wrestling. I used to do left arm competition against men and women. Did that all the way up into my 50s, and I'll be 71 tomorrow. Won some trophies. It was a lot of fun. The boys used to always try to beat me. They usually couldn't do it until they were in their middle teens at least.
Let's see another story. How about when you worked with Grandpa before you were married, and you got your hair cut in the factory thing?
Oh, yeah, that was terrifying. I had hair about down to my waist. I had it in a ponytail. I was working at the factory, and I turned around to do something, and about that time, Ben, who is not my husband at the time, was my foreman, had said something to me, and when I went to turn he turned it on. He was trying to warn me he was turning it on, but I didn't know what he was going to say. And as I turned, it caught my ponytail, pulled my hair all the way down to the drill bit while it was going. He hurried up and unplugged it. It probably took a half hour to get my hair out of it. I survived it. I had a headache for a while, but that was kind of a trauma.
Okay, let's see what's another good story.
I know it's always...
Oh yeah, about the time you went to D.C. because it's your business here near D.C. About your trip to Washington D.C. and the band.
Oh yeah, when I was in high school, our band took first place overall out of a national contest. All different schools, Catholic, whatever, it didn't matter. High school bands went and recorded this certain concert music, and it was all sent in to a place where it was evaluated. The names were blank. They didn't have any idea what school, where it was from, or anything. But my school, Central Catholic, here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, took first place. So we got to go on a tour to Washington D.C. We were supposed to be in the Cherry Blossom Festival, but it all got rained out. But we still got to play on the steps. Can't even remember.
Capitol? Or was it
the Supreme Court building, maybe? We got to play on the steps. We still played the music that we'd won the contest with. And at the time, our senator there in Indiana was Senator Birch Bayh. He rode down there with us. That was quite the experience. And we got to tour the Washington Monument, and we got to go into the Supreme Court building and see not anything action, but where all the officials sat when they had their meetings, and got to go through that. And we went through the Immaculate Conception Church while it was being all restored, and they were adding altars onto it and stuff. We got to see a big play, which I tell you about it, except for it was boring. Everybody else died to go, and I fell asleep through the whole thing. But that was still quite an honor and experience, the whole thing. I was 16, junior in high school.
Isn't that when you got your fear of heights too?
Yeah, when we went up to the Washington Monument, I have no idea why, but when we got all the way up and I looked out the window, I felt like the building was falling. And then somebody told me, well, it actually is like leaning or moving. And that put me into a panic. I'd never been afraid of heights, but I instantly became horrified. And instead of going down the steps, back down with everybody, I got to go in an elevator to get out of there. And up until this day, I'm terrified of heights. I was horrified to go in a plane. or even into a tall building. If I did, I couldn't look out the window because I would have a panic attack. But that was all a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of things because of being music. I got to go and see Krupa in person. My music teacher took me to that. And anybody viewing this probably doesn't remember Jonah Jones. He was a famous nightclub trumpeter mostly, but he had albums and stuff, and I got to go see him play. I got to go behind the scenes. My music teacher got me in the nightclub, even though I was only 12 years old, but I actually got to play Jonah Jones' trumpet. And I don't know, I've just been blessed all my life with getting things like that. A lot of memories, a lot of wonderful memories.
What did you play?
I played the main trumpet. Trumpet was my main thing that I played from the time I was 9 all through high school, and even played it some after high school. But while I was in the high school band, because I had such a powerful, I could play pretty loud, they switched me to marching band to the baritone, and I played baritone for a lot of the things. I was in a little Dixieland combo for a while, and that was fun. I got to play when I worked at Lincoln Life, I got to play for the Lynx at a fashion show for Huntner's Paris.
For who?
For Huntner's Paris.
What's that?
It was a pretty snazzy clothes store back in the days, in the 60s. That was equivalent to like a Marshall Fields now in those. Anyways, they had a fashion show. I got to play for that. I did a lot of things for that. When I was at Lincoln Life, I was on the tennis team for the Lynx. I was on the archery club. And even after I had my kids, I bowled a lot. I was in a lot of bowling tournaments. Dragged my kids to all of them, but they always had a place for you to take the kids there. They loved that. The kids, I mean, I don't know about the people bringing 4 kids in under 5 years old, but no, I also played women's softball team at Hamilton Park in Fort Wayne, Indiana. While I was in high school during the summers, I played on the softball team. I was more of a tomboy than anything, and I loved to dance. I would get any kind of dance competition that there was. I was privileged to go to like 2 or 3 different proms when I was in high school, and the Valentine dances and all that.
And the locomotion with me and Jeremy.
Yeah, I'd make the boys do the locomotion with me all the time. Little Eva's locomotion. And the bird. Everybody do the bird, 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 because the bird is the word. I do the bird, bird, bird. That was another one. And what was the other one? The chicken. Say you'd have to be my age to remember the chicken dance, where you flapped your arms like a chicken and you moved your legs like a chicken. Anything that came out, I did. The mashed potato. I don't know, I was one crazy mom. Wonder my kids got sanity.
So back to high school, there's that story that you had a teacher that was sold, that Granny had her, and when Granny had her, she was old, and then sometimes she would yell at people for being out of their seats. So
bless her heart, Sister was it Mary? No, Sister Irma McNasia or something like that. And she was like in her 80s, and she was my English teacher. And she just tell us to open our book up to some random page that we weren't even on and tell us to study it. She'd fall asleep in class every day. It's so funny.
Didn't you say she'd tell a kid to write something on the board, and then she'd fall asleep, and then she'd wake up and yell at the kid for being out of his seat?
Yeah. God bless her.
See, then there's the high school. Was it high school where you were caught eating and you had to share your food with the whole class?
I would always suck sunflower seeds that were full of, that was my government class. And I loved those sunflower seeds that had salt, and I'd sit there sucking them, and I'd always get in trouble. And then finally he asked if I was going to continue to do that I ought to bring enough to share. And I brought out this bag, and I was going to give everybody one. And they just all died laughing. He actually got mad at me because he thought I was being sarcastic. How do you want to say?
Mm.
In other words, oh, defiant.
Yeah.
And usually, really, I was a good kid. I mean, I don't know. Oh yeah, and being at a Catholic high school, you weren't supposed to. Back then, the girls would rat their hair to make it all bouffant and stuff. And if I had my Latin teacher made me comb it out right in class. My hair was all flat. I was so embarrassed, though. I hated her. I wanted to quit school. And it is stuff like I wasn't doing anything bad, you know. And I remember being in the band. We didn't have a field. We didn't have a football field. So if we weren't at one of the other high schools, then we would be playing at Lawton Park. It's where we'd have some of our games. Well, we didn't have a car, so I'd have to walk at least 2 miles to school. And I'd have to get there really early. We'd have a bus to take us over to the park to practice for our band routines for the football. And I would wear my hair in these little pink rollers. I would wear them to school and to band practice so my hair wouldn't be all straight. I don't know, just a lot of crazy things that'd be so funny. Sometimes we'd be coming back late and I'd be on the bus trying to rip these rollers out of my hair, and they'd get all stuck in my hair, and we'd be pulling my hair out trying to get these out before we got back to school. Yeah, oh yeah. That was back in the day when a non-Catholic school across the street, everybody wore mini skirts and everything, and being a Catholic school, ours had to be 2 inches below our knee. We all felt like morons because we were so different from everybody else. So a lot of us would, once we got into school, we would kind of roll our skirts up at the waist, and then one day Father Hammond, the principal, he made all the girls walk across the stage, and they sat down there, and if our skirts weren't 2 inches below, we would, you know, get a slip or something. We have to have our mother sign, except for I was up there and he caught me unrolling it, so he knew that it wasn't too short, that I was pulling a fast one. It just seemed like all the time I tried to be so good, but when I wasn't, it was me that got caught. Well, I wasn't the only one, but...
They had to do daylight at dances too?
Oh yeah, daylight at dances. You always had to have space between you. If you're doing a slow dance, you had to be like, try to hang on to the guy when you were doing your slow dance, because you couldn't get, you had to have daylight between it. Oh, another experience I had though is after the football games and stuff, we would leave from the school, and then after the games we'd all come back to school and get out of our band uniforms. And then there was always the after-game dance, which was a couple blocks from the school at an armory. At this one particular day, was really hurrying as fast as I could because I wanted to be able to sure to walk down there with a group of people because it was dark. Got my foot caught underneath one of those heavy doors, the main big doors in the school. Got my foot literally caught on it to where they had to get the janitor to get it off. I had to go to the hospital. It actually popped the end of my toe, and I had to be on crutches for a while. But when they had to call the janitor to come, he was like, how you get her foot caught underneath the door? But it did. The door went right over my toe, and we couldn't move it. I mean, it was so painful. And they had to take the hinges off to get it off my foot. And my music teacher took me to the hospital. And it was such a force that it actually popped the end of my toe. it didn't break it, but it was sprung or something, I don't know, but I wound up being on crutches for a while afterwards.
When was that?
That was when I was like 15. I was a sophomore in high school. Worst part was I missed my dance. And it wasn't fun coming to school on crutches, going up and down steps for classes.
So they didn't have elevators back then?
No, no elevators. And they were those, I want to say cement, but they weren't cement, but they were like slick, you know, where it was hard to get the crutches on it right. There was always somebody there with me, a friend or something. But obviously, I didn't get to do the rest of football season as far as playing the music out there because I couldn't go out there in crutches and play on the field, but still had my practices because we had concert music too. I don't know, it was like a standard thing. A lot of people wrote stuff in my yearbook. It's gonna happen, it'll happen to Joyce Monroe. Stuff like you hear of a storybook. I mean, who gets their foot caught underneath the school door?
So were you in Chariot High School at the same time?
Yeah. She was a freshman when I was a sophomore. She worked in the cafeteria, bless her heart. She didn't get much lunchtime because she worked to help earn money on her tuition.
So how'd she have to, what
I was more fortunate because I couldn't because of being in the band. But she did that, but also when I was a junior, I started working at Sears, and I also worked at Hunter's Paris, and I paid part of it myself, and I think, I still don't know to this day, and I'll never know, but I'm pretty sure it was my music teacher that paid the rest, because I was about to switch schools because of the tuition when there was 3 of us in there at the same time. When I was a senior, my brother was a freshman and Sherry was a junior. We had married my little sister going to a Catholic grade school, and my mom was our sole support, and it was pretty rough. She was in college, trying to go back to college to support us. And there was rough days, but fun days. I wouldn't change any of it.
Who was your music teacher?
Mr. Woods was my teacher there, and then I had a private music teacher named Mr. Stewart. He really wanted me to be something. I mean, he's my Mr. Stewart, first black man I ever saw and met in my life. And I was tone deaf, if you want to believe that, and played first chair soloist. I'd have to have other people tune my horn. How I played, I don't know. I could be off flat and not know it, and my music teacher would hit his one. Can't you tell? And I'm like, no. But I managed to do all the technique, the triple tonguing, the tadika, and all that stuff. I could do all that. But I couldn't tell if I was sharp or flat. I sounded good to myself.
So which one did you think paid for you? Was it Stewart or?
I know. I feel like it might have been Mr. Woods because, I mean, being in the band and all that stuff, you know, and being able to stay there. Mr. Stewart, though, he had my private music lessons down to like $2 or $3, which was ridiculous, and half the time I didn't have the money for that, but he wanted me to keep taking them. So I would walk from my house down to the high school on Saturday mornings, and Mr. Stewart would give me a half hour to an hour private music lessons, and like I would enter the solo contest when I was in high school, and he would help me on those. Like I played a real famous, it's called the Carnival of Venice, which is a very difficult piece. It's a trumpet solo. but I played it on a baritone. And he had a big part, and I took first place here, and then I got to go to a national, which I only took third there. But, yeah, I don't know, a lot of people came into my life that made my life good. There's lots of things that happened. One day I had on a Saturday, it was the weekend of my birthday, and I had a private music lesson. And my neighborhood friends begged me not to go. And I'm like, why wouldn't I go? Well, because we want to hang out. We just want to hang because it's your birthday. And, you know, I'm like, well, that's all right. You know, I'll do it when I get back. And la, 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 la. Well, it wound up, I went to my practice, and I come back and here, they had a whole big thing planned, a surprise birthday party for me on my 16th birthday. And it was wonderful. The neighborhood kids and everything all got me stuff, and the adults even helped with arranging for them to have a really cool party with cake, and it was just, you know, I had no idea in the world. I mean, I figured they were going to say happy birthday or something, so this is my birthday, and they were trying not for me to go, but I had no idea they had all this planned, and I kind of backed it up for them a couple hours because I went to my lesson, which I had to walk to, which took 45 minutes, and walk back, not counting my lesson. But I still, to this day, somebody bought me it was kind of a joke because they knew that when school was on, how I wore rollers to school, and somebody got me this, it's called a curler container, and it was all full of rollers in this little container, and they said it'd be a lot easier if I could take that instead of having to just pull my rollers off. They didn't know it was an inconvenience because I had to walk and carry it back, but anyways, it's not like I had tons of friends, but it just seems like all the friends that I did have were good friends. And one Christmas, not just a couple years after my parents had gotten divorced, we didn't even have the money for a Christmas tree. And the neighbor girl down the street one day come by, it's wintertime, and she is dragging a Christmas tree to our house and a bag of ornaments that she had gotten from her mother and her aunt that they had extra, so we would have a Christmas tree. That was awesome. Pretty awesome. Makes you appreciate a lot of things in life. I guess it's better to go like that and work up than to be up there big and then lose it. I don't know, but it was cool. Actually, before my mom and dad were divorced, we lived comfortably. We had a nice house. My dad worked. He became ill. He was in and out of the hospital due to being in the military. And our life pretty well changed from being average to very poor financially, but rich in a lot of other ways.
And he worked at General Electric, right?
Yeah.
What did he do there?
He was well, I know he started out as a dyeing tool. He had a really good job. But then because of his illness, he would be in and out, and he wound up working in a spool room, which I have no idea what that means, but I just remember as being a kid, it was the spool room. And I don't know what that meant. Roll wire or something, maybe? Not sure.
How about Granny? What did she do before she was a teacher or anything? Did she have a job?
Well, what she did for us is my mother was a very, very good seamstress. And I know one year she made all of the uniforms for the, not the cheerleaders, I don't know what you want to call them. It was, it's like when you have a band, like what they call now flag girls and that. Anyway, she made all the uniforms for that, for Northside High School. She did that. She would make mother and daughter apron sets, and my sister and I would go around selling them. She one time she made tons and tons of flowers out of wood fiber. She'd make these beautiful flowers and stuff, and my uncle delivered for beauty parlors supplies, and he got it to where a lot of them would let him take my mom's stuff there and sell them.
Which uncle?
My Uncle Bill. My Uncle Bill and Aggie. And that's what he did, is he went around selling beauty supplies and delivering them to the beauty salons and stuff. And she would make really beautiful, have stuff in vases and even pins, corsages and stuff that people bought for like proms and different things like that. And that's what we had to live on. We got very, very little child support because of my dad being in and out of the hospital. So, and then I did a lot of things. I used to shovel walks for money. I mowed lawns for money back when I was 11, 12 years old to help buy groceries and stuff. They always managed to make it. My sister and I would go with the wagon, and we would go up and down alleys and collect pop bottles. We got 2 cents a pop bottle. We would go hours up and down alleys and stuff. People would just throw their stuff, be all laying around. We'd pick them up, fill up the wagon, go home, unload, and you would get 2 cents a bottle. Took them back to the grocery store because there was a deposit, and most people didn't want to worry about their 2 cents. Heck, we'd have enough to buy a couple loaves of bread and a pack of bologna and stuff. We went down to St. Francis College that was about a mile from our house. We went down. We fished in the pond, my sister and I. Took back fish, and my mom cleaned it. One time we were walking back, and I still had the hook on my pole, and I hooked my sister's leg into it. We had to go up to the convent there at St. Francis, and they got a hold of my mom, who didn't have a car. Ironically, the Fuller Brush man was at the house. Come to St. Francis, picked us up, took my sister to get the hook out of her leg. I mean, it just seemed like things were... That was a trip. That was something else. We didn't have worms or anything when we fished. We would take old bread, and we made dough balls out of the bread. It worked. I remember bringing home a catfish once, and the people that were around there said, "Oh, you know, you don't want to do that." But my mom knew how to skin them and everything. And I remember when she had to nail the tail down or something. I really can't remember. I was probably about 10. But she started to cut the head off, and it started jumping around. But it was really dead, but I didn't know it was dead. I remember I just went hysterical, thinking it was still alive, but it wasn't. But she skinned it, and it was delicious. Wow. Doing this is making me think of things I haven't thought of in 60 years. Crazy. My sister could tell you some stories, probably about me. What she had to deal with. She was extremely shy, and I was totally the opposite. I'd always drag her into my mess. Steve was 3 years younger. He didn't much hang with us. I'd get mad at my brother, and I'd bite the heads off his Indians. Chew off the arrows. My mom was going to kill me. I used to be jealous. He was the only boy. I thought he was favored. I'd chew his stuff up. I know the one time my dad made me go out and mow. And I was like, why doesn't Steve ever have to mow? We didn't have power mowers. We had those big cranky things. And I was so mad. That was the one time it chewed the heads off. Boy, did I get in trouble. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, I think that was probably the ornerest one of the bunch. But I was a good kid. I mean, when I shoveled and mowed and stuff, I usually gave my mom the money. 50 cents for doing a big double driveway. Shoveling the snow where you had to beat the ice with the shovel. Get 50 cents. Or mow somebody's yard with that mower. The blade wasn't even sharp and have to keep going over the same spot. I think the most I ever got in those days was $1, and that was something that took hours and hours, and I was all sunburned up.
So what was $1 worth back then? Like how much people with real jobs
Well,
get?
For $1, you could get quite a bit. You could go in and get a great big package of chicken wings. My mom cooked lots and lots of chicken wings. Those are real cheap. You could get them for like 15 cents a pound. That. And you could eat hot dogs, 50 cents, 59 cents a pound. Sherry still remembers that. We didn't have much stuff. I remember Sherry when they had these great big paper dolls. And with clothes that came in this book. Then you'd punch the doll out and then have to cut the clothes out. And it was like 50 cents or something. My sister wanted it so bad.
And Sherry, Aunt Mary.
Aunt Sherry. And she just told this story about a year ago. She was telling about what I did. She thought I was a goddess, and I wasn't. But after I got done I was shoveling snow, it was the winter. I went to the equivalent to a dime store. Then I went and bought it for her to surprise her. I think she saved that until she was a teenager just because I bought it and she couldn't believe it. To her, that was like, because my dad wanted me to be a boy, so he treated me like a boy, tomboy. I didn't get dolls, I got cars. I remember my first doll was a little rag doll made out of yarn that my grandfather had bought me one and my sister one. So and then I bought this little doll it was a little tiny rubber doll and she named it Tommy. And it was one of the first baby dolls that she had.
Which grandfather?
It was my dad's dad. It was the only time I ever saw him except for when I seen him when he died. And then I remember my first job at Sears when I was in high school. I worked in, it was catalog pickup. People order stuff out of the catalogs. And then they'd come to me when they came in, and I would have to go out in the warehouse and climb up on the shelves where the stuff would come in. Well, somebody had bought an Easy Bake Oven, and there was something the matter with it, so they brought it back in. Wanted their money back, which they got, a warranty. Well, when those things would come in, then the people that worked there had the option to get them at some ridiculously low price or whatever. And I remember buying that. My youngest sister, Mary's 9 years younger than me. She was really little. Well, if I was 16, she was 9 years younger.
7 or so?
Yeah, something like that. Well, the Easy Bake Oven worked, but it had a short and it would go off and on, and that's why the people brought it back. But there were intervals where it would heat up, and it came with all these little cakes and cookie things and stuff to make. I remember bringing that to my sister. Oh my gosh. I still remember Mary jumping all over me and jumping up and down, and got that on my first paycheck. I think it was $10. I made $1 an hour. I don't remember what it cost or anything. I just knew I was excited to take it to her. She was, oh man. She just thought that was the neatest thing she could ever get. She still remembers that, and she's 62 now. We had a heck of a time though with it though, because of the short in it, it would stop and stuff would look a little bit cooked and be all mushy, and then you'd have to take the plug out and put the plug back in 2 or 3 times, keep wiggling it and wiggling the thing and everything, and then finally you'd feel a little bit of heat. Then you just try not to let it move so that it would bake some more. But I think she wound up using everything. That was a fun place for her. That was just a Christmas job during the Christmas season. And then when spring came, I got my job at Hunter's Paris, and that was a phone job. That I hated, trying to sell stuff over the phone. And I graduated from high school, but I was only 17. I got into Lincoln Life, but I couldn't start until that following July when I turned 18. I worked there for a few years, and then I had Tony, my oldest one, doing this.
Alright. Want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up for now.